Unforgettable, uncensored, unforgivable. The Unspoken Podcast with Tom Albano, Nick Fodera, and Nick Morgeson on the Undetermined Podcast Network.
You are listening to the Unspoken Podcast, a Cheap Seat Sports production, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. It's episode number 51. It's the start of season 2. I'm Tom Albano along with Nick Fodera, as always.
Yes, we thought we were going to do a cliffhanger for season 1, but I already got kidnapped by Colombian drug lords this year.
What? And the more things change, the more they stay the same. Nick with his out-of-nowhere comments.
I aim to surprise.
Well, maybe those of our usual listeners may not be surprised by that, but we may have some new listeners. So welcome to the show. And for listeners old and new, there's going to be a lot of changes to this show.
Yes, we are doing a relaunch. It is the Unspoken Podcast 2.0. New segments. It's different topics. We are not remaking the Unspoken Podcast from top to bottom, because it's still, the same two assholes sitting in the back laughing at people. But still, it's bigger, it's better, it's faster, it's stronger.
Harder, better, faster, stronger.
Indeed. So with that, let's just move on to our first segment. It's the front page. This is our top story of the week. And I don't think there needs to be any debate on what our top story of the week is. It is the coaching carousel. Black Monday has happened. Play the circus music. Because guess what? Coaches are getting swapped left and right. Coaches getting fired. Interviews are happening. It is a coach's, I don't know, how do you describe this?
It's a cornucopia, a coach of fire, it's a coach of palooza.
All right, yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. It is a coach of palooza. So let's recap everything that has happened for the past week. Bruce Arians is retiring as head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator Dean Pease will retire following a 45-year coaching career. Jesus.
Yeah. I guess they had to peel him off the walls to get him out of there.
Aw. You know who didn't have to be peeled off the walls? John Fox in Chicago. Fired after 3 miserable seasons.
Oh, my God. I actually missed that one. They got rid of him?
They got rid of him. He's gone.
It's weird. And our old friend Ben McAdont is gone.
Right. For the Dallas Cowboys, wide receivers coach Derek Dooley won't return. Tight end coach Steve Lonely also planning to retire. I think they might be looking at getting rid of the coordinators, offense and defense, possibly. But Jason Garrett is staying on despite one playoff win or one playoff appearance in how many seasons with him?
1, I think.
I was going to say, no, Jason Garrett has been there for 6-7 seasons.
He's been there for 6-7 years, but I think they only have had one playoff berth since he's been there. Because was he the coach when they went in 08?
I don't think so. I
just remember somebody else being the coach then, but I can't remember quite who it was.
Right, but my point, only one playoff berth in 6-7 seasons, that's not good.
Yeah, but, as long as Jerry gets to play, Tequila Cowboy and flaunt his wealth in front of millions of people, I think he's quite happy with that, even if he is Yosemite Sam crazy.
Jim Caldwell is out as coach of the Lions. The Packers have fired defensive coordinator John Capers, offensive coordinator Edgar Bennett, and quarterback coach Alex Van Pelt.
And Ted Thompson got kicked upstairs, didn't he?
Yeah, he got firing via changing of roles.
So it's firing him without firing him. He's an executive consultant to the new GM, whoever that is, which is weird because we're not calling it firing, but you can't actually come in. Your keys don't work, and you know what? Just stay in bed. Just lay there. Put the covers over your head. We'll come back and get you some coffee, but just don't. We don't want to see you again. Go away.
I will give you some money.
Yeah. Here's $5.
Chuck Pagano fired as head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
Which was, I think, maybe 2 years too late.
Probably. And Jack Del Rio fired as head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And we will get to more of the Oakland Raiders in just a little bit. But, Nick, I have to ask you, in your opinion, who deserved to be fired the most? Who just did such a poor job that they needed to go?
Well, let's look at this from two different perspectives. Let's look at the ones who were underperforming going into the season and weren't expecting a lot out of, and the ones that had high expectations but then fell the farthest. So, taking that in mind, I would have to say that, again, it would have to be Ben McAdoo that would be the most deserving of having been fired. And that's not New York bias talking. Just look on paper what the Giants were expected to do going into this season, because coming out of last season, they were an 11-win team. They lost first round to the Packers, but people were expecting them to go farther because they got Brandon Marshall. They had another full healthy season out of Odell Beckham Jr.
Let's face it, they were a Super Bowl contender to some sports media.
Yeah, but for the last couple of years, I mean, in John Fox's situation, Chicago's been underachieving for the past 2 years. They weren't expecting much out of them.
There is that, but there is also just John Fox's track record. Because John Fox, he only lasted 3 seasons in Chicago, but I mean, let's consider his coaching record right now. He had the 3 seasons in Chicago, which were bad. He had 4 seasons in Denver, and then they ended up parting ways. He made the Super Bowl once during those 4 years, but the other 3 years, they lost in the divisional game.
They did, is it really more due to the talent pool in Chicago not being as deep, and that's what cost him his job? Or is John Fox really that? Does he depend on a stacked roster to be good, or can he bring the best out of people? And I think, honestly, it's the former. He needs a good staff in order to perform up to expectations.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think, I need more change coming out of Chicago because it's not all John Fox's fault. Let's think about this past offseason. That stupid trade in the NFL draft where they traded one pick up with the 49ers and gave them a bunch of other picks just to draft Mitch Trubisky, who wasn't projected to go that early. I'm not sure if he was even projected to go first round. And it's just why? Were they so concerned that the 49ers were going to draft Mitch Trubisky?
Well, we see that they are. I mean, even in team situations where the team was good heading into, injuries can derail a team and also derail a coach's future. I mean, look at Jack Del Rio. People were expecting big things out of the Raiders, but once Derek Carr went down, that completely went down the toilet. And that's what cost him his job.
And I think, and we'll get to the Raiders, the news of the Raiders coaching job in more recent days. But I think, just speaking general-wise, the Raiders coaching position is probably one of the most lucrative out of all the vacancies. I mean, you've got a young team, you've got Derek Carr as a franchise quarterback, and you've got a potential move to Las Vegas. Now, whether you agree or disagree with the move to Las Vegas, going from Oakland to Vegas, that's more worth your dollar, more bang for your buck, more value and stock to the team.
You don't have to go in and do a lot of remodeling. It's not the same situation as Gettleman is walking into when he starts working for the Giants.
Right. And we've seen Gettleman, speaking as Giants fans and from sports media perspective of opinion, it seems like Gettleman is off to – it's baby steps, but he's off to the right start. He's waived Bobby Hart. He's gotten rid of the who else did he get rid of? It was the director of personnel or something?
Player personnel. I'm blanking on his name right now, But the real test for Gettleman will be in the draft. That'll be the first hurdle for him to clear, and then you see what he can do in free agency.
Right. And fortunately, it seems like Eric Flowers may also be hitting the shelf, which would be another good baby step. One more good baby step for Gettleman, getting rid of Eli Apple, because, well, if anyone's following that Collins and Eli Apple story, it's like, I don't know. I mean, on behalf of Giants fans, I'm just happy that the season is over.
See, if you can salvage that relationship, which he's made overtures in the press saying that he would be open to doing, if you can salvage that relationship and get something out of Eli Apple while he's still here, could you? Should you?
It's going to be interesting. And plus, Carolina, I'm sorry, it seems like the majority opinion is Carolina screwed Gettleman over when they let him go because he had bad relationships with some veteran players. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, he still led that Carolina franchise to a Super Bowl game with the Broncos. So there's that, you know, you have to keep that in mind. Like, here's what he can do with a Giants team that pretty much needs to be burned down to the ground. And it's like, okay, I don't give a shit about your status. I just want the best of the best here.
Exactly. Again, we'll need to see what happens.
Moving on now from the coaches that did get fired to the coaches that didn't get fired. I guess we'll just start with Marvin Lewis. A 2-year extension with the Cincinnati Bengals. After a whole circus where we thought, you know, maybe he was gone. They were thinking about firing him. He was going to get fired, and he wasn't going to get fired. And now they've extended him 2 years. What the freaking do, Bengals?
See, was it just a rumor that he was out the door, or was it official that he was?
There were a lot of talks. It seemed. I'm just gonna say that there were a lot of talks.
That he was going to pursue other responsibilities.
It was something like that because I remember it wasn't just, you know, ordinary reporters or dirt sheet people talking about it. This was stuff like NFL insiders like Schefter and Rappaport, I think, were talking about this.
Well, maybe he does the same thing that, you know, we as graduate students do. You take a look at the job market and go, oh, God, this sucks. I think I'll stay where I am.
I don't know. What does he have on the Bengals? What kind of blackmail does he have that he got another 2 years out of this?
Somebody's burying bodies underneath that stadium. That their mascot is actually a rabid dog.
I can't believe I watch this YouTube channel every week. His name is he goes by the name of Schlosser, but his YouTube name is Urinating Tree, and he does this NFL Weekly recap. And it's comedy wise, you know, it's making fun of it because let's face it, the NFL. I think this season has proved that the NFL is a league of parody, and I think he's right when he talks about the Bengals in this. This just shows you how much of a dumpster fire this team is.
Yeah, and it's not even a dumpster fire in, you know, a spectacular sense. In terms of, I keep using that word, showmanship. This is mediocrity. This is the NFL equivalent of beige drapes. It is. It is dull as dishwater, and the only way to break the cycle of mediocrity is to fire Marvin Lewis, but you are not going to get to that point because apparently
at this point you need to fire front office staff too. You need to clean house.
Yeah, they look at that plate of bland mashed potatoes that is the Bengals, and they say, "More, please."
Well, speaking of needing to burn a place to the ground, let's talk about the 0-16 Cleveland Browns, please. And they got rid of their general manager. I think they have a new general manager. And he said something along the lines of that the old regime failed the city of Cleveland, failed the Browns. You know, they were failures. But Hugh Jackson gets to stay after 1-31. After going 1-31.
I'll take duh for 500, Alex.
I'll take WTF for 1,000, Alex. Why? Why is he still there? After saying that the old regime failed, that's like if Gettleman kept Reese on as a special advisor.
I guess he just likes him. You know, maybe there's more to being a nice guy in the NFL than we thought there was. Maybe if you're nice to people, you don't you don't double park. You give everybody candies at Christmas time. Maybe they'll reward you with a job. It would be good to see, but the nice guys in the NFL don't win. I mean, Belichick is a straight up jerk.
Well,
but we'll get to that.
It's not just about being nice. The NFL, let's face it, is a results-driven business. It is a what have you done for me lately. When the Lions went 0-16 in 2008, there needed to be a lot of changes. Now they got Matthew Stafford out of that. And I mean, Stafford's a great quarterback, but you don't see the Lions having much more success. Well, definitely, it's a long step up from 0-16, but still.
Yeah, it is. But again, you're not getting any kind of return on investment that could be counted as substantial. So you're running in place. You really are.
And Todd Bowles gets re-signed to the New York Jets, and all I can say is Jets.
Jogging in place. That's what this is. It's just typical Jets for you.
It's like you shouldn't even be surprised, in all honesty. And we're moving on now to more recent developments. The day we are recording this, news has broken out that Jon Gruden may likely, it's going to be more of a confirmation. He will be the next head coach of the Raiders. Again!
But brace yourselves for the dollar amount, folks, because when I heard it, my eyes nearly popped out of my skull.
I texted you it, and you were like, what the hell? It is a 10-year, $100 million contract. It is the largest coaching contract in NFL history.
That would imply that that Jon Gruden is Alex Rodriguez money, and that's what I can't even. I don't even have a long enough list to point out all the things that are wrong with that. It's sweet sugar-coated Jesus. What the hell is Mark Davis thinking? Why?
I can't defend it. I can't. I don't know what's going on here. Gruden was last head coach in 2008 with the Tampa Bay Bucks, going 9-7 and missing the playoffs. His last playoff appearance came the year before that, another 9-7, but he finished first in the NFC South, of course, losing to the New York Giants in the wild card game the year that the Giants ended up winning the Super Bowl. He does have a Super Bowl under his belt as head coach, though, 2002, his first year with the Bucks. But I mean, out of his 7 seasons with the Bucks, he made playoffs 3 times, twice lost in a wild card game, once was a Super Bowl champion. 4 years with the Raiders, going 8-8, 12-4, first in the AFC West and losing to the Ravens in the AFC title game. Then 10-6, first in the AFC West, losing to the Patriots in the divisional game. So you look at his coaching tracking record, I mean, he's a great mind. But coaching-wise, I'm being honest, not the best record for somebody that you'd expect like Gruden to have.
Plus, we must take into account the fact that he hasn't coached for 10 years. Hasn't coached for 10 years. And I pulled up some handy-dandy statistics from NFL Research's official Twitter, and it said that who do you think it might be that holds the most wins over the longest span of time out of the game?
I don't know. Who would that be?
That would be Seattle. That would be Pete Carroll. And under him is Chan Gailey, and under him is Art Shell, Joe Gibbs of Washington, and St. Louis Dick Vermeil. And that's 66 and 62. And but still, I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, the game has changed so much in 10 years. I'm wondering whether, beside the exorbitant amount of money they're paying him, can he play the modern NFL? It's another thing to just, stare at the telestrator every Monday night and just shout inane nonsense at things. But it's another thing to actually coach. Man, can he do it? I don't know.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, I think the Raiders coaching position is one of the most lucrative out of all the vacancies. And it feels weird because it feels like the Raiders' mind were set. It feels like Davis and the rest of the front office were set on replacing Del Rio with Gruden.
Yeah, and without actually realizing what the ramifications of that would be. They just made up their mind first, and then they came up with a rationalization second.
And there was a big rumor going around that Gruden may have been offered an ownership stake with the Raiders. Now, he went on, I think it was Golick and Wingo, and said, that part's not true. That's not true. But he did confirm that if he was given the opportunity, he would come on board and be the next Raiders head coach. And, well, yeah, it's looking more and more official now, but I don't know. I don't know if this is the right move. And 10 years, $100 million, that's a lot to put on for a team that, is in a weak division. So, I mean, there's a chance that there's a big rise. He could, with how weak the AFC West is, if all things all go well, he can move up and, he can show why he was worth it. But move to Las Vegas and everything, there's also a lot of fall. Seriously, there is. I mean, think about it. He may not last two or 3 years on this deal. How long do you think he lasts?
2 years.
I'm going to be a little more generous and say
he may not even make 2 years if they can't right the ship.
That's true. I'll be generous and say 3, but yeah, if they don't right the ship, not good.
They have to get things right before they go to Vegas.
Okay, moving on now. We're going to go over to baseball. This is a little segment we're going to call Around the Diamond, which is just baseball news. And top story, we got Eric Hosmer. He right now is in the midst of big free agent negotiations.
Can you guess who it is, loyal viewers? I bet you can.
Well,
no. When you think of baseball, think futility. You're on the right track.
So it appears that Eric Hosmer is in a little bit of I guess you would call it the middle of a tug of war between two teams. He has 2 7-year offers on the table as of what I know right now. One of those offers, the most, not the most recent, but the most prominent, had come from a team called the San Diego Padres. 7 years, $140 million. But now I think I heard yesterday the Royals have countered, of course the Royals being the team Eric Hosmer was with, have made a counteroffer of 7 years, $147 million.
So the difference is, of course, 7.
I feel like this is going to be one of those things where it's going to be like an auction. It's like 140, 147. Okay, 152.
Do I hear 120? Do I hear 125? Do I hear 130? Do I hear 135? Sold to the man with the curly locks.
And I mean, this is insanity. I think Hosmer, deserves to get paid. But I mean, what do you think, Nick? I mean, you got the Royals and you got the Padres.
He deserves to get paid, but this is the pitfall of long contracts, and the Yankees learned this lesson the hard way. So we are as Yankee fans, we are very, very intimately acquainted with the onus of bad contracts, where that deal better be front-loaded as all hell. Because in the back end of that deal, oh my goodness gracious. But I would have expected the Royals to have fought harder to keep him. I mean, they're trying, but you would have expected they would have offered him something at the conclusion of the season, because he's a homegrown guy, and they love homegrown guys. Everybody loves homegrown guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just wondering whether he's not necessarily whether he has talent, because he does. But 7 years, $140 million.
Because I was thinking about this a couple of nights ago, but you have the Royals and you have the Padres right now. Now, if it wasn't for the 2015 World Series title, if he was still looking at the World Series title, I would be looking, and I was Hosmer, I would be looking at these two contracts and thinking, yeah, that's great. I want to get money, but I want a championship. Of course, though, he does have the World Series ring. So now it's time for him to get paid. So, yes, as Yankees fans and also having experience with bad contracts, there is concern on this offer from the Padres and the Royals. But from the perspective of Eric Hosmer, it's time to get paid. It's time to get the money.
So you're saying that he'll make like Steve Miller, take the money and run?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why wouldn't he? He's shown his worth.
Yes, he's shown his worth, but does the hometown discount really mean anything anymore? And I'm not asking that rhetorically. I actually am curious. Because I've seen instances where it does, and I've seen instances where it doesn't. And I'm just wondering whether it actually holds any sway anymore.
I don't know. I really don't know. Because, I mean, even if he takes the lesser role, because remember, it's only a $7 million difference, but the Royals are ahead technically on this deal. Because they offered $147 million. If you were to take the $140 million from, the Padres, at the very least, the Padres are looking to rebuild. And I mean, that's a process that takes forever in terms of San Diego.
And they would be building around him. So
right, but that's the thing. He would be rebuilding around him. He would be, instead of a team where he is a star among, a couple of stars, he would be the lone star in San Diego.
He would be the guy. And does he want to be the guy, or would he rather just see? I don't really like to put myself in athlete's shoes because, people have multitudes of reasons for leaving in free agency, for money, for financial security, for winning opportunities, even for petty vengeance. And all of them are valid. But looking at this from pure dollars and cents, the Royals are offering more money. And honestly, they still love him in Kansas City. And I would say they'd have a better chance to win now, maybe not, where they compete to the level which they were in a couple of years ago, but they're not going to be cellar dwellers like the Padres.
And I'll agree with you on that. So as of right now, maybe if I'm Hosmer, maybe I stick with Kansas City as long as, they're still in front in the bidding war. But I mean, what if a potential outsider comes in and scoops up Hosmer? You still got, the only concern with all the other teams, and we'll get to this in a couple of seconds, is everybody is trying to get under the threshold.
Yeah, and everybody's racing towards it, and it just seems strange to me that he's the one you break the bank for.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know. Hosmer to me, he's the big free agent you get in a year where there are no big free agents.
I can see your argument with that, but I don't know. I still think you still have to give Hosmer some value here.
And I do.
And
I do.
And I think considering the market with all the teams and the whole threshold thing, I'm not sure if Kansas City would be a team I would expect, to break the bank and potentially sacrifice that threshold situation for him. But maybe it's because, as you said, it's a hometown guy. The Padres, maybe I would expect this from because, as we said, they're rebuilding. They are doing a serious, serious rebuild. They haven't been to the playoffs in so long. They need a franchise guy. Maybe Hosmer for them is that guy.
I would only point to what they did with Justin Upton. Actually, not Justin Upton. It was the Upton brothers, right? It was both of them.
B.J. Upton.
Oh, it was B.J. Upton. The former B.J. Upton a couple of years ago. And we know that went belly up. So
right, I was going to say, the Padres, this wouldn't be the first time where a potential, move for a franchise guy goes wrong.
But this is exactly why you can't put too much stock into free agent moves on paper. You can't hand somebody the World Series trophy just because they made a good signing. And that goes for every team. Even the Yankees getting Giancarlo Stanton. There are still questions there, and you just have to wait for the season to play out before you start raining down the hosannas or, raining down fire and brimstone.
Well, I think also another thing we didn't keep in mind about the Stanton signing is it also takes a little bit of pressure off of Mr. Judge, just in case he has a sophomore slump.
You think that was a consideration for Cashman when he went after him?
I was going to say, I don't think it was the main reason. Obviously, it's Giancarlo Stanton. He waived two trades with his no-trade clause and then said he wanted to go to New York. So, obviously, it's not the main reason. But I think it's a very small, but something you do consider because, let's face it, the New York media is full of, go get him. So, if Judge has a disappointing season, even if it's still a good season, if it's a disappointing season, they will go after him.
Again, we will need to see what happens, but at the end of the day, it's going to be, no matter where he ends up, I still would classify it as overpaying for him. If it were the Red Sox, the Padres, or the Royals, or any team.
Would it matter though if, like, let's say he signs with the Padres or the Royals, and let's say they do what you had recommended before, and that they front load the contract? Would that make it better?
Maybe. I'm thinking it might.
I think, because I would say so, because it's still Eric Hosmer. He's still in the prime of his career. He's still a great bat and a great glove. Keep him at value for what you have now. If he does drop off, at least, you front loaded the deal.
Yeah, exactly. At least you'll be able to get some production out of him, and you'll be paying for that good production.
All right, but now I want to break off into more discussion of something a little more general, just free agency in general. So it is early January. The first team to have their pitchers and catchers report, I think, is the Mets on February 12th. And then over the next 48 hours after that, the other teams' pitchers and catchers will report. So we're about a month away. But let's look at all the free agents that are still out there. It is insanity. We are recording this as of January 5th. And listen to this. Yu Darvish, J.D. Martinez, Eric Hosmer, Jake Arrieta, Lorenzo Cain, Mike Moustakas, Jay Bruce, Todd Frazier, Jonathan Lucroy, Eduardo Nunez. Listen to that. All these free agents, and there's only 1 month left. What the hell?
See, I'd like to think that it's really, people are wary with big deals. But you know what? They're not, because we've just seen what they're willing to offer Eric Hosmer. So, but the question that I'd like to ask is, what percentage of those guys you just named do you think will still be jobless by the time spring training and opening day rolls around?
Well, let me look at the names. Yu Darvish, J.D. Martinez, Eric Hosmer, Jake Arrieta. I don't think so. They'll find jobs. There are going to be teams out there that will be willing to sign. Maybe not so much Arrieta. Wade Davis, he had to sign with Colorado. And if he were still a free agent, I think he would be one of the more pursued, because we seem to be in the era where relief pitchers right now, we, see their value.
It's a bull market for relievers, and Wade Davis took advantage of that. And it's not necessarily that he had to go to Colorado, that he had to settle. But they offered him, I think, the most money out of the teams that were pursuing him. Mm-hmm. So again, he made like Steve Miller, took the money and ran.
I hate to say this, but maybe Todd Frazier. He might be jobless by the time spring training comes around.
I think that you're going to see a lot of guys take severe discounts or not play for the kind of money that they were expecting to get when the offseason began.
And because you made that point, I got to make the point that I wanted to make, and that is, I think what we are seeing with this free agent market, I think we've discussed this before, is basically an after effect of next year's free agent market. You have all these teams who are looking to get under the threshold, and, because we got big free agents coming up, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, for example, and some teams are not willing to give the kind of contracts that they would normally overpay or, offer to guys, because they're worried about next year. Because next year, I think we've discussed this before, next year is going to be a frenzy.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, the most prudent analogy to this would probably be, going to a buffet and not filling up on bread. It would be. I know, fat guy, I have to bring it all back towards food because that's what I do. But it's a calm before the storm. It's not a frenzy now because it's going to be a frenzy later.
Right. And I'm thinking we're beginning to see that, and some players are going to have to settle for lesser deals. Like I said, do I think guys like Lorenzo Cain, Yu Darvish, J.D. Martinez, no, they'll find jobs. J.D. Martinez is the most I'm shocked about. How does he, after the year he had, not have a job?
I honestly, maybe a lot of the teams pursuing him think that last year was a fluke.
I don't know. He has shown over the past couple of years he is a power bat. He is a real power bat. And I'm just going to be honest with you. As much Like, I'm surprised the Red Sox haven't done anything with him. Bit of rumors with the connection between the two. And honestly, if the Red Sox want to compete in the AL East, they need somebody like JD Martinez.
They do. And he's one of the most likely to, I think, come back. I mean, get a job on a 1 or 2 year deal.
I mean, if the Red Sox aren't willing to do it, I guess somebody else is going to be willing to take him on, because it's JD Martinez, that kind of power bat. We got to see what Arizona could do with a lineup like they had with Goldschmidt, JD Martinez, etc. So now we're going to move on to another segment. It's going to be a little special segment. It's going to be called the 2-minute drill. Basically, it's the usual NFL recap I would do, but I'm only going to give myself 2 minutes. I have to do this in 2 minutes or less.
And now.
All right, so let's take a look at this. New York Giants get a win, but fortunately they still got the second pick because Indianapolis had to screw themselves up. And Kirk Cousins, a disappointing line, but let's face it, it's not disappointing for Washington, it's more disappointing for Kirk Cousins. And that's why I was going with Washington all those weeks you and Nick were going against them, because let's face it, Kirk Cousins is not playing for the Redskins, he's playing for himself. He's going to be a free agent, and it seems like his days in Washington are done.
Feels good to get that off your chest, doesn't it?
Indianapolis 22-13, and they got rid of Chuck Pagano, so hopefully for Indianapolis they can rebuild. Unfortunately, do they need to draft another quarterback? We don't know, because Andrew Luck's days, we don't know if he'll throw a ball ever again, let's face it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dallas and Philadelphia, what a crappy game, and I am really concerned now for Philadelphia in the playoffs. I'm going to say this right now ahead of our predictions. They ain't making it past second round, even as the number 1 seed. They are an underdog as the number 1.
I would have to agree, although I'll go more into that when we get there.
Cleveland Browns, congratulations! Congratulations! 0-16. Let's see. Buffalo, congratulations! After all these years, every major sports franchise has made the playoffs except for you, and now you are in the playoffs. And that's also because, what the fuck did you do, Baltimore? 4th and 12. Less than a minute left, and you give up a touchdown. How the hell did you manage to do that?
Remember that analogy I did last week where you're failing upwards? You're slipping on a banana peel and ending up on a rocket to Mars?
Yep.
Yeah, it works. Except you're actually on an express elevator to hell.
Seattle lost to Arizona, which I'm surprised. One last thing. It's the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. Now, the Rams were benching a bunch of their starters. I don't care. 5-0.
5-0. 5-0.
5-0. Jimmy Garoppolo ends the year 5-0 as the 49ers starter.
I'm not a very religious man, but I know gold when I see it.
Now it's time for a new segment here. Another new segment on this Unspoken Podcast 2.0. It's called In Other News. So what we're going to do is a little quick fire segment on some other topics that have been going on in the sports world. Usually we'll give about a minute and a half, maybe at most 2 minutes to topics, depending on how many we have. However, for the first topic of today, since it's a little more breaking news, we're going to give it 3 minutes. And our first topic for today is this little drama that's going on in New England. So all this drama is happening between Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and Robert Kraft. And Alex Guerrero, Brady's personal trainer.
Who is actually the football equivalent of Dr. Nick. He is a quack. Quack, quack, quack.
You calling him a duck?
Yeah. He is a duck. He is a duck. A crazy duck, but a duck nonetheless. Now, for those of you who don't know, context is necessary. Alex Guerrero is Tom Brady's personal trainer, but he's also crazy. He is light speed, stone cold, you in your tracks crazy. But he is one of those personal fitness gurus, and he thought he could cure sunburn by drinking water. And he once claimed he could cure cancer, and he misrepresented himself to the team. He said he was a doctor, but he's not actually a doctor.
And all the people are going to him, and not the team doctors.
So how this factors into Brady and the rest of the Patriots is apparently their things are not all good in Patriot land, and there's been a bit of friction between Brady and Bill Belichick and the owner Robert Kraft.
And today it got worse.
So-
because not only is it about Mr. Guerrero, but also Mr. Garoppolo, who we were just talking about. Apparently, Belichick wanted to keep Garoppolo. You know, when Brady was under suspension, he was tutoring and mentoring Garoppolo and actually helped the Patriots to a decent record despite, you know, a nice start despite Brady's suspension due to Deflategate. But apparently Robert Kraft, and rumor is Tom Brady, wanted to push him out. And now, of course, Garoppolo's in San Francisco.
And Brady was pretty much elated at that point. But the most interesting thing, the most interesting nugget to come out of that ESPN story, because that's where it originated, it was a story on ESPN, was there were sources that were saying this is the last time that they think that this trio will be together, will be this season. So Brady, Belichick, and Kraft, something's going to give, somebody's going to leave. And how much credence do you put into that, Tom? Do you believe
that was going to be my question, because now the three have released a joint statement saying all these reports are false. We're all fine. We're all, you know, good and buddy. But I said it before, and I'll mention it later. I'll even play the audio clip later of when I made the NFL predictions that this was going to be the year that we were going to finally see the end of the Patriots dynasty. And it seems more and more, not just on the football field, but now with this, it's not good. It's not good for the Patriots. I don't know if this is the last season that we will see, you know, the three together, but the dynasty is coming to an end.
I don't know, man. We always seem to have these conversations, and yet Brady comes back from the dead. He's like a zombie. We've heard this before. We've seen this. So why should we expect, or what is it about this season that makes these things different?
I will explain more when we do our NFL playoff prediction, because it has to do with the Patriots on-field play as well. All right, so our next topic actually goes to the world of basketball. Isaiah Thomas is back for the Cavs. He played a couple of nights ago in his return. I think it was January 2nd or 3rd. Ended up playing his return game. I think he got like a decent amount of points. I forget how many it was. But the big kicker was the next day, the Cavs were set to play the Celtics, Isaiah Thomas's old team. And IT sat the game out, said, don't give me a tribute video or nothing. So, what are your thoughts, Nick?
Drama. That's what this is. Oh, God. It's like an episode of Dallas. I know I'm not even old enough to remember Dallas, but I'm telling you, it's a soap opera drama. It is.
I was going to say, one thing I've heard is maybe he's playing mind games or something, because they are scheduled to go back to Boston, I think, in February. So, you know, I would understand, because, you know, he just got off of that ankle injury. But there have been a lot of either injuries or resting of players in the NBA as of late, and it's one thing that turned me off from the game a little.
It did. I remember that conversation. But you know what? I think it's a little bit too much to be saying mind games. I think there's a little bit of vengeance involved.
The NHL Winter Classic also happened recently. The New York Rangers took on the Buffalo Sabres at Citi Field in Queens, and the Rangers came away with a 3-2 victory in overtime, pardon me. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on the game, Nick? I thought it was a fine game, but I don't know. When it comes to the Rangers, we haven't talked hockey much, but recent weeks of the Rangers have, honestly, speaking as more of a fan, pissed me off with their performances, especially that second period against the Devils before Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. There's nothing like a good Winter Classic to get your mind off of it, even though, I mean, my dad, my brother, and my brother's father-in-law went to that game, and it was, if you'll excuse the terminology, testicle retractingly cold. The hot dogs they ate were actually frozen solid.
I had a friend who went to the game, by the way, and yeah, it's hella cold. It's still hella cold. Here we have Arctic winds, and we have a bunch of snow on the ground, whether you're in Staten Island, Brooklyn, or Long Island. Here in New York, it is terrible.
But the fact that they were able to win that game, I think, papered over a lot of the flaws on this team and the coaching mistakes that Alain Vigneault makes.
Well, it's also the effort, because, like I said, that Devils game, that still has pissed me off, because it's like you have to give a solid effort as a team. And Dave Maloney on MSG and ESPN Radio blasted, because that's how I was listening to the game. He blasted the team that day for that effort. And unfortunately, the Rangers are now without Chris Kreider due to a blood clot, which is sad.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate, and they are going to miss him. I really wish it wasn't that way, but they are not going to do good when he's gone.
They need a winger. As the trade deadline comes up, they need a winger. It's a hell of a competitive Metropolitan division this year, so
and you can't afford to give an inch.
Right, and they need to do something. Otherwise, maybe we need to accept the fact that Stanley Cup window is finally closed. Carson Palmer has officially retired from the NFL. Nick, what are your thoughts on Carson Palmer's career before I give off some numbers?
I know his name, and he's done some pretty good things. I think that's really the best that you could ask for. He's a guy. He's not that guy. He's a guy.
Well, in my opinion, he has a bunch of franchise records for the Bengals and Cardinals under his belt, and not all of them are good, because one of his Cardinals records is most times sacked and most interceptions in a playoff. But still, he was a franchise player for both the Bengals and the Cardinals. He had a lot of hype around him, but injuries, got in the way. But he ends his career rating of 87.9 to average everything out from 2004 to 2017. 294 touchdowns, over 46,000 passing yards. Completion percentage overall is 62.5%. And it's 294 touchdowns to 187 interceptions. Maybe not the best, but, is it Canton-worthy numbers? Probably not. I mean, that's debatable.
He's retired Jersey and Cincinnati worthy, I think.
I was going to say, Ring of Honor, absolutely. Canton, maybe that's a debate. But, Nick, we don't normally talk college football often, but the national championship game is on Monday. It is Georgia versus Alabama. Georgia beat Oklahoma in a classic Rose Bowl encounter, and Alabama got their revenge over Clemson in the Sugar Bowl. So here we are, another all-SEC final.
We just can't seem to get rid of Alabama, can we? We just can't. Nick Saban is Satan in a crew cut. He is. And you know what? No. But I'm not going to make any predictions because, we all know I trip over my own face when that happens. But I would say that this Alabama team looks much more mortal in this year than they have in recent years.
I won't say, mortal, but at the same time more motivated. Because you saw what they did after beating Clemson, right? They took the trophy, the runner-up trophy from last year, and they crushed it.
Yeah, I saw it. Don't you hate watching Nick Saban happy? God, it's like watching the end of The Empire Strikes Back. It just feels wrong.
I'll say this about the Rose Bowl game. That was a classic. That was a hell of a game. That was definite. Like, Oklahoma had flaws, but Georgia definitely earned its comeback.
Jake Fromm is a hell of a quarterback.
Right. And do you think all these quarterbacks are losing their games because they don't want to go to the Cleveland Browns?
I hadn't thought of that, but now that you brought that up, that's all I can think of now.
And one last thing about it before we move on. UCF, University of Central Florida, beat Auburn in one of the other bowl games. Of course, Auburn beat Georgia and Alabama. Did UCF, and they were 13-0, but they were out due to strength of schedule. Did they deserve the playoff? Do we need to go to an 18 playoff?
UCF definitely does have a case for that. They do, because they might have gotten a little screwed over.
I think we need to come up with. I think we need a plan before we implement the 18 playoff, but it might be worth it. Our last topic for this little rundown: the National Football Hall of Fame finalists have been announced. And we have names like Terrell Owens and Ray Lewis, Randy Moss, Ryan Urlacher. Give me your thoughts, Nick.
Everybody but Ray Lewis.
I was going to say Brian Urlacher, definitely. He wasn't, he didn't bring a Super Bowl title to Chicago, but he didn't need that. But, Urlacher, I think, was still a phenomenal football player. Randy Moss, this might be some Vikings bias, but yes, absolutely deserves it. Hell of a, a name like Randy Moss, when you have the reputation like he had for his on-the-field play, definitely deserves it. Terrell Owens, the only issue with him maybe was off-the-field stuff. When he was dumped from the Eagles and picked up by the Cowboys Nation was super concerned. Not because of his playing wise, but because, will he be a team player? Will he fuck up team chemistry was his concern. But he's still a big name. Still, I guess I'm not his biggest fan, but I guess it's
if
one
Ray
of those.
Lewis gets in, then T.O. should get in.
Right, that's my other thing. Ray Lewis, we only have a couple seconds left. I'm not going to say a comment, but if I'm saying no comment, you know my thoughts.
I know.
It's time for prediction time, where we're just going to give our predictions on things. Of course, we can't do rapid rundown itself anymore because the NFL season is over, but let's go through the playoff tree and let's talk about the matchups we got coming. So here we go. Let's start with the first round, the wild card round. Tomorrow, 4:30, Titans-Chiefs. Nick, what are your thoughts? Who do you have?
This is going to be a very telling game. This is going to show us whether the Chiefs are actually for real or pretenders. Whether they can actually take all that good season by Kareem Hunt and turn it into something. But are we really expecting Marcus Mariota to have a good game?
No, Marcus Mariota has been one of the biggest disappointments of this season. I have no faith in this Tennessee team. I would always mock the AFC West and go, Wild Wild West, more like the Wild Wild first-round playoff elimination. Guess what? I didn't think we could find a team worse than an AFC West team in this playoffs. We found it, and its name is the Tennessee Titans. I'm actually going to go against my word. I normally wouldn't do this, but I will. It's considering it is the Titans, the big disappointment of this season. And I'm going to say the Chiefs will win. And the Chiefs might even dominate. That or it's going to be a shit show of a game.
I'm taking the Chiefs by 14. Again, I may eat my words like I often do, but I'm taking the Chiefs by 14.
Falcons and Rams tomorrow night at 8:15. I'll be honest, this Falcons team is not the same Falcons team from last year. No matter the players, no matter the season record, this is not that team. And you're facing a Rams team where Jared Goff has greatly improved. Todd Gurley's insane and might be MVP worthy. And defense is great. So I'm going to say Rams in a blowout.
I wouldn't say blowout. I would say that the Falcons are going to be able to keep it close. But this is the point where I would do the whole choking gag thing. But I can't even do that because they're not even going to get close enough in these playoffs to choke. So
not just that,
I'm taking the Rams.
The Rams are just a good team. The Falcons aren't that good of a team, in my honest opinion. You got the Bills and the Jaguars Sunday at 1. Bills enter the playoffs for the first time since 1999. But they're going to be possibly without Shady McCoy. That or Shady McCoy ain't going to be 100%. But they're going up against the Jacksonville team where it's Jacksonville because of that. It's a hell of a defense. But the quarterback is Blake Bortles. So something's got to give here. What gives out?
What can we expect out of Blake Bortles? This is his first playoff start, is it not?
It is. And there are already concerns that he will probably choke the game away.
Let's roll those dice. I'm going to take the fact that he's going to choke the game away.
Really? You're saying Bills in an upset?
You're right. I instantly regret it. I'm taking the Jags.
Here's my thing. I think that if I have to pick one game in this opening round most upset, probability of most upset happening, it would probably be this game because of Blake Bortles. But they're Jacksonville for a reason. I think the defense is going to, I would say, for Buffalo's sake, if they can survive the Nathan Peterman experiment, they can be safe from anything. They will not be safe from Jacksonville. I'm taking the Jags. And then, last but not least, probably the most worthy game in this wild card round, probably the best one, Saints and Panthers. This one's going to be good.
It is. So are we? I'm expecting a high-scoring affair. Are you?
I am. But I am going to go with my gut, and I'm going to go with New Orleans. I think Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram are going to run all over that field. I think Drew Brees has great passing options. I think New Orleans is more together as a team than Carolina. I think not that Carolina isn't together as a team, but I think New Orleans is just a little bit better.
That's a good point. It's going to come down to Carolina's past run defense.
And I don't think it's going to be enough. I think New Orleans will take it.
Yeah, I would have to say they will too.
I think Panthers have the best chance of, this one's the most closest one. Like, this is the one where it's like the odds aren't so much against Carolina. This is more pick 'em, I would say, but still.
Again, we're not going to do – it's going to be a good game regardless, but it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a toss-up.
So, considering our wild card predictions, and they're all the same, let's look at what our second round would see. Our second round, let's start with the AFC. Since we picked the Chiefs and the Jags, it would be Chiefs, Patriots, and Jags, Steelers. So let's start with Chiefs, Patriots. I would go Pats. The Chiefs are just...
You have to.
Yeah, the Chiefs are just... It's the AFC West. If they don't get out of the first round, they're going to get out in the second. Now, Jags, Steelers is a little... I want to say Steelers, and my mind and body and heart are all thinking Steelers, but the Steelers have been playing down to their competition for the most part in recent weeks. Do you think that costs them?
It will, I think. I think Jacksonville actually does have a chance to beat them. Call me crazy if you wish.
No, but I'm not saying like I am saying Steelers, but I'm not thinking you're crazy, and it's not because of Jacksonville and Blake Bortles. It's because Pittsburgh has been playing down to their opponents in recent weeks.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Something seems to happen to them come playoff time where they just come unglued.
And this has been the whole season for them. So, but I would say New England, Pittsburgh. You might say New England, Jacksonville, but AFC title game. Are we really going against New England either way?
No.
No. So you would have New England, Jacksonville. I would have New England, Pittsburgh. But we both agree Pats are going to the Super Bowl for the AFC.
Unfortunately.
So the NFC, we would see, based on our predictions, Eagles versus Saints, Vikings. As I mentioned before, one of my bolder predictions of this playoff, I give 0% chance for the Eagles. I think they are the biggest underdog despite being the number one. I don't believe in Nick Foles. Carson Wentz's injury has ruined this team. And if they're not bad on offense, they're terrible on defense, as we saw against the Giants. I'm sorry. New Orleans is winning. I'm
taking New Orleans on this one. Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, they're just going to run roughshod over this team. Over shoddy defense like we saw in the Meadowlands a couple of weeks ago, this is going to be crazy. And even if it doesn't, the offense is going to suck like it has the last 2 weeks. So it's going to be like a Roadrunner cartoon. It is. So that leaves us with Vikings and Rams, and this would also be one of the more interesting games of this postseason. See, there's my heart and there's my head. No, I think the Vikings will do just a little more. I think this Rams team is still a little playoff inexperienced. Not that the Vikings have more playoff experience, but I think they want to make up for the Blair Walsh incident from a couple of years ago. Yes, but this is going to be the biggest game that Case Keenum has ever played. I'm just wondering if he has the stuff to pull it off. Because it's a different time, come playoff time. Different set of skills, completely different frame of mind. That's why I think the Vikings will make it to the NFC title game, but I think they fall to the Saints. My Super Bowl prediction is it will be the Patriots versus the Saints. I'm going to take the Vikings over the Rams, but I will say that the Vikings will beat the Saints. Okay, so you're going Viking. I'm rooting for the Vikings, but heart will be the Vikings, Pats versus Vikings. Vikings winning the Super Bowl, making history by becoming the first team in their home stadium to play in a Super Bowl and win in the Super Bowl. But my gut is going to go with the Saints, and it's going to be Pats versus Saints, and I'm going to go with the Saints. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you, Nick. My three playoff, top three Super Bowl winnings teams, the Vikings, the Saints, the Rams. Whoever out of those three makes it out of the NFC is winning the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to use my bold prediction here. The Patriots, the dynasty is going to end. Let me play the audio clip from when I was first making NFL predictions at the beginning of the year. And Nick, no matter though, if it is Green Bay or Seattle, my third and final bold prediction of the year.
the last image we will see this year is Tom Brady weeping on the field, but not tears of victory. As I said, I think this dynasty is coming to an end. We see the drama going on in the locker room between ownership, coach, and Brady. TB12, if it wasn't for the choking of the Falcons last year and the little running incident a couple of years ago, I mean, not running incident, but didn't give it to Lynch and pass it. I mean, you can't say if Lynch had the ball that they were going to win. You can't necessarily say that for sure, but it was a likelihood. Then the Patriots would have lost their last 2 Super Bowl appearances. The magic is running out. It is over. My big, bold prediction isn't necessarily that a winner. It is that the Patriots will make the Super Bowl, but they will lose. And we are going to see a passing of the torch because somebody other than Eli Manning will, be
able to beat them.
Tom Brady. Right, will be able to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. We are going to see the beginning of a new era in the NFL.
That is a bold prediction.
That's the thing. I said at the beginning of the season, it's still up there, so I'm still going to go for it.
Go for it indeed, man. Nobody's stopping you.
So what is your Super Bowl prediction? What is your take?
Okay, like I said, I think that the Vikings can make it to the Super Bowl, and I think I'm picking them to win. I know it's my heart and my head here, but my heart must win out in these things because honestly, they've surprised me all year with how good they are, and they've shown me that they can go up against the best. And I know that if they go up against the Patriots, you apply pressure in just the right places with the Patriots, they will crack. The Giants did it. They did it twice.
Right. And this Pats defense, let's face it, this Pats defense was horrible this year.
Yes, I think it was. And you must, and I don't necessarily see it working the same way, in exactly the same manner that the Giants did when they beat the Patriots twice. But there is something there that is able to be exploited, and they can exploit it. They have the ability to do it.
I'll be even bolder, Nick. Bolder than my other bold prediction. Other than maybe the Steelers, I don't think the Patriots have faced a worthy team this whole season. I mean, other than the Steelers and maybe the Panthers, and I don't think so. And based on how weak the AFC was compared to the NFC, and that's also something we said at the beginning of the season, how the NFC was stronger. I think the Patriots will be crushed by whatever NFC team comes its way.
The amount of times they've gotten by on sheer dumb luck and the refs calling in their favor, it is indicative that this team does have a weakness.
So you're going to go with your heart and mind are one in saying the Vikings. My heart will say the Vikings. My mind will say the Saints. But my boldest prediction, Pats are going to the Super Bowl. They are losing. We're going to see the beginning of the end. Even if they are still together and Brady retires as a Patriot, we're going to see the end of a dynasty. The end of an era is coming, people. And that's going to do it for us here on the Unspoken Podcast, the new Unspoken Podcast 2.0. Go like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope at the UDUP. Go like and follow all the rest of the Undetermined Podcast Network accounts. And that's going to do it. For Nick Fodera, I'm Tom Albano. We'll see you next time. You've been listening to the Unspoken Podcast, the Cheap Seat Sports production part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.